Що тут за двіж?
Пам'ятки архітектурні, пам'ятки в Криму, типу їх доля під час окупації, вся така.
Ага. It's June 18. Ukraine Media Center starts its operation. My name is Svetlana Shaparenko, and today is the day of commemoration of the memory of those who perished during the enemy strike on the civilian infrastructure on the night of the 16th of June. And we express our condolences to the families of all those who perished. The Russian Federation continues inflicting strikes on Ukrainian civilian infrastructure, including on Ukrainian cultural monuments. And it applies also to those located in Crimea. Those monuments are being used by the Russians to rewrite the history of Ukrainian Crimea. So today we will be talking about architectural monuments in occupied Crimea, the monuments of the national meaning, the national heritage sites of UNESCO, and their current status. Joining us in our studio are Aliye Ibrahimova, member of the board of the ICOMOS Ukraine National Committee, specialist in architectural monuments of medieval Crimea, director of the Bakhchisarai Historical and Cultural Reserve in 1998-2014. Olena Serdiuk, museum worker, member of the board of the ICOMOS Ukraine National Committee, and Liubov Apostolova-Sossa, urban planner, head of Department of Urban Economy, Kyiv National University of Construction and Architecture, member of the board of the ICOMOS Ukraine National Committee. As I was saying earlier, a lot of monuments, important monuments, are currently in occupation. It applies to Crimea, temporarily occupied Crimea. So, Ms. Aliye, what is the condition of those monuments? What do we know about the destroyed monuments, those that are not being taken proper care of now? Well, I think we should start with the most important monument, the Khersones of Tavria, the UNESCO World Heritage Site, and those illegal works that are taking place in its territory. This situation was already given publicity. There is a dedicated report that was forwarded to UNESCO by monitoring missions, and this situation is being kept track of by international committee, ICOMOS. When it comes to Khersones, there's a lot of concern caused by the situation that is taking place not only in the Kordisha place, but also its outskirts. I think we don't realize the scale of destruction because we're talking about Heraklion Peninsula here. A lot of untapped cultural layer is located at Khora, where the military bases of the Russians are located, where there is illegal archaeological dig, and this situation is an occasion number one on international scale because this monument is on the UNESCO World Heritage Site. The second one, in terms of its meaning, is the Crimean archaeology. I'm not going to tap the Khan's Palace. Ms. Aliye will talk about it. So I would like to say that it's not only about destruction of the monuments. We've also heard and we're aware of that situation related to the construction of the huge road from Crimea Bridge, from Kerch, from Old Pantikapet to Old Khersones, all the way to Sevastopol, and all the way all of the artifacts from those archaeological monuments were not only pillaged but also stolen. On top of that, in the territory of Crimea, there are archaeological expeditions operating. There is an impression that what Russians do is only antique archaeology, that they have forgotten about their roots. The researchers are former colleagues, archaeologists, researched the Crimean monuments. Well, I would put the word research in quote mark because it's mostly pillaging of the monuments. They steal the monuments from Western Crimea, the territory, the research territory about Eupatoria, and ending with the research in Pantikapey, in Kerch. It has taken a larger scale in the territories of Khersones of Tavria. But let's not forget about central and northern Crimea. But the situation is not new. The pillaging of the Crimean monuments had started long ago. It started back in the century 19. It all continued. It has been continuing within the 20th century. It was suspended in the year 1991 with Ukraine gaining independence, and it was resumed in 2005. For example, in 2005, the Geno fortress in Serdiuk in Crimea was visited by the expedition from Hermitage that paved the way for pillaging of Geno fortress. All of its collection were brought to Hermitage. There is a hall of Byzantine culture in Hermitage, and if you end up there, you will see that the exposition is fully built on Crimean collections. So that was the mass destruction, mass stealing that started back in the first decade of 2000s, and it continues until this day. Why the first decade? Because I think that under the flag of cooperation with Hermitage, there was a situation unfolding along with the policy that got its final shape in 2014. The fact that the collections were pillaged and stolen are also confirmed by the publications of the Hermitage employees, and now in the open sources we have confirmation of that information that I was talking about. Thank you. I would like to talk more about the Khan's Palace in Bakhchisarai. Ms. Aliye, can you tell us what is the situation around it? What are the existing threats of illegal restoration works conducted by the Russians? What do you know about the destruction of authentic elements? Thank you for having me, and thank you for the question. I would like to start with the fact that when I started working in Bakhchisarai Cultural Reserve, I was writing a curriculum called the historic planning of the Khan Palace. So we started digging around the Khan's Palace to the extent, at the scale where it was possible. And in 2003, when there was a UNESCO conference operating in Crimea, Ms. Olena was working with that conference with the reputed community, and they arrived at Khan's Palace. They've inspected the dig, the palace itself, and during the conference, a resolution was made that the palace should be added to UNESCO World Heritage list. We've submitted the concept of development of the reserve, so we were added to the preliminary list. Then, when we started developing the expedition together with a buffer zone, we started digging in Kyiv. They call it Kishkina, and there was many new architectural monuments opened of national scale, and they had a history dating back to Crimean Khanate times. Also, we've opened a crypt under the tomb of Khan Jipihilai that contained 18 burials of Crimean Khans. The first Khan, Jigirai, whose name was taken to name this sepulcher. We really appreciate it, because otherwise, so that this monument was registered in the central register, which is good, because otherwise it would have been destroyed. And we've called for the specialists, biologists, anthropologists from Kyiv, the specialist on human genetics. They've taken small samples of biomaterials for further study. Also, they've extracted some unique artifacts, the fibers, silk, and other fibers for restoration. And since the burials were old, 600 years have passed, those sepulchres, they were destroyed, and we've found out a technique to put the burials into oak sarcophagus and rebury them under the Muslim tradition. There were muftis coming from Turkey and Romania and other countries. There was a big opening, a solemn opening of those works. Well, the works were continuing in 2008 and 2009. All those monuments, well, we were visited by the members of UNESCO. Miss Olena was visiting us, and there was a decision made that all those monuments should be added to the World Heritage list. So it was not called as Bakhchisarai Palace, and it started being called the historic environment of the capital of Crimean Khans in the capital of Bakhchisarai, and all of those exhibits were included. And it's important that all that time, that land of the Bakhchisarai Cultural Reserve, it was added to the architectural plan of the city, because we had to connect it. And in Bakhchisarai, they were saying they didn't have that plan. There was a lot of money spent for that, but our reserve was making good profit. We've coped with it, and then we continued the works on restoration of the monuments. The Turkish Department of the Development and Restoration joined us. We had restorators coming from Turkey. We were working with them since 2008, and Khan's Palace was also, well, there were works taking place in the palace, and palace was brought in a very good condition to have it added to UNESCO World Heritage Site. All the works have taken place. Yeah, but then the Russians have come. Yeah, but in 2014, the occupation has started. They've shut down the museum, the madrasa, that contained the collections that we've dug. We were restoring the ancient Qurans. They were exhibited there. We had an international conference that was attended by archaeology and art specialists, specialists on inscriptions, and they didn't even let us make that collection book, but we're still working on it, on the book related to other studies. I've only managed to make a book on Bakhchisarai Palace and to the sepulchre of Kyiv, because in that sepulchre there was Sophia buried, the constructor of the Khan's palace. I got them united in one book. You know, when the book is being prepared, you want to put as much as possible in there, so the reader could see the interaction of those historic sites. What do you know about the condition of the palace today? What did the Russians do to it? So all of the reports about those works are in the Institute of Archaeology and in the reserve itself. So they have all of the information about our works. They have drafts, blueprints, the chemical tests. And they were saying, like, we didn't have an opportunity to conduct a survey, how to do the things in the right way. So they've dug some areas, they've ruined something. So in 2019, they did, in the 19th century, they were doing the same under the camouflage of restoration. And when it comes to ruining, they started with the Khan's mosque. It's a big installation in the territory of the palace. It was built by Serdiuk. It was his first construction, and nearby there was a hammam. So he dedicated that mosque to the whole city. Everyone was attending it. It was for the whole city. It was not only for the Khan's family. It was like representation of the state. It's a unique installation. It has an interesting history. Ramil Khajar was writing about it, and Leah Sherebi. And its roof was restored during Khan's Khaganate, when the Russians invader came in 2014. They ruined that mosque, and to restore it, there were funds allocated by the Ottoman Empire to restore that mosque. So we've all initiated a case in the prosecutor's office of the Autonomous Republic of Crimea, and Turkey has a right to claim too, because they haven't only destroyed the mosque. There were talks about roof tiles and stuff. They've destroyed the whole roof. It was made of a unique wood that is not being destroyed by the microbes. The chandeliers, they ruined unique building. And it all disappeared from all of the registers. I came there in 2018, and they on Friday, when the Muslim community was attending, I came there too, and for a prayer. I came up to the second floor, the women's floor, and when everybody was praying, I made the pictures. I have all of the pictures. They have this concrete seismic block. Then they've changed the load on the walls. The walls started cracking. So this is when it comes to some specific activities they were doing. I mean, as they know that it will allow the building to fall apart in future, then they've made a big pit with the bulldozers in order to make it beautiful, so that the building of Khan's Palace is reflected in the water. So when the water was support, the wall of the Council Palace started cracking, and the building near the mosque had cracks all the way to the foundation, and it started sliding away. They wanted to strut it with the wooden bars, but it's geology. You have to deal it with the different tools. I wrote it down in my testament what they should do to support it. And now they've put a scaffold around all of the buildings, and they've built a metal roof over the Council Palace that sits on concrete pillars, and it all was relying on the concrete plates. They've dug large pits with the bulldozers. They've poured concrete in there and put those pillars in it. So they destroyed the whole architectural layer of the Council Palace, where the State Council of the Crimean Khanate had a seat, and I was afraid if that roof may fall. I was filming it as the machines were entering, the vehicles, the construction machinery, so I was making footage. I've made a documentary that is called The Killing of Council Palace. It was on Crimea TV on ATN. They helped me with the photographers, but we were unable to show that movie because the works are still underway. And for what I understand, all the documenting went all the way to Crimean prosecutor's office, and now there is a case initiated against the Russians who destroyed the Council Palace. Yeah, there was another case. There was exhibition of Crimean exhibits in Europe. A lot of artifacts were coming from our museum, from Kerch, from Simferopol, and from Kyiv as well. And when the occupation had started, I was addressing the security service of Ukraine, and they wanted to bring those values back to Crimea. In Europe, the legislation says that they have to return the values to the museum they were taken from, but Crimea was not controlled by Ukraine back then. So we initiated a legal dispute, and they've taken a right decision, and Russia submitted their appeal because they were saying is theirs. Meanwhile, we were appealing that Russian occupation of Crimea is illegal. So for them, it was a matter of prestige. And only when the full-scale invasion had started, the court ruled, finally made a final ruling, and the values were put to the exhibition. Very good exhibition. Yeah, it's a real big victory of Ukraine, right? Thank you, Ms. Aliye. Thank you, Ms. Liubov. I would like to discuss the challenges with you, challenges related to the cultural values of Crimea, their preservation. Now they are under occupation. The occupiers absolutely discreetly treat them, and as we've seen, under the cover of archaeological dig or restoration, the values are being stolen. So what are the other challenges that we're facing to preserve those cultural values, the archaeological ones that were in Crimea?
Well, you said already that this activity is absolutely not controlled, and those are archaeological studies, those are construction works that are taking place against the regulations of international archaeological organizations, Ukrainian organizations. Let's say they also built new objects and everything that was happening there has happened there is a violation of the regulations that was of the status quo that had been there. And of course, I should also mention the destruction as a result of the combat activities. Also, it's a loss of different artifacts that we mentioned already today. Also, it's absence of access to the objects. We don't know what condition they are in, what is happening to them right now. There was losses in terms of cultural heritage all over the occupied territory. The destruction keeps going, and for us it's a question of appealing to the international community. We are trying to bring their attention to these facts. And the specialists in Ukraine, they are lacking, of course, right now due to the war. We lost a lot of documents that were located in the occupied territory. What do you think? This destruction process, is it reversible? When we return the Crimea, and we have faith that we will return it, and we will return there, will it be possible to renovate them, restore them after those destructive activities that Russians committed there? Yes, of course, there is a hope that we could renovate some to some extent, but not everything, of course, because there is a lot of destruction that happened there. It's irreversible. Thank you, Miss Olena. We already touched upon the legal status of the monuments in the occupied territory. What is the status of the objects that are right now in the occupied territories of Crimea? What our international partners are saying? For us, for now, we are boasting a great victory, because all the monuments on the territory of Crimea were recognized as a historical heritage, national historical heritage of Ukraine, and it is confirmed by international documents. For example, in 2014 in Florence, a big assembly has adopted a Crimea resolution where the fact of belonging of many monuments on the territory of Crimea were recognized as Ukrainian national heritage. Also, the same goes for the property of many different museums about the Khersones that we were talking about today, and some of the collections were returned to Ukraine. However, the key moment here that as of today, neither the Monitoring Commission nor the Ukrainian representatives don't have any kind of access to the monuments in the Crimea. And this question has been raised even before the full-scale invasion. It was posed before the start of the aggression in 2014. We raised the question of the Hans Palace. Ukraine officially addressed to the UNESCO mission, asking their representatives to come and visit those sites that are in the occupation of by the Russian Federation, because we cannot provide security to those historical monuments with our own forces. That's why we appealed to the UNESCO. However, seeing the intensity of the combat activities that are taking place, it is very difficult to arrange. However, a lot of different reports are being submitted about this, and this is also very important. Please tell us, what is the importance of getting those monuments into the preliminary list of the UNESCO? What is the importance of this procedure? Although the list, main list, as well as the preliminary list, they are very, very important. They are showing to their evidence of the significance of the Ukrainian history as a international heritage. These monuments belong to the humanity heritage, not only Ukrainian, and that is why it is very important. And we do not separate Ukrainian heritage and European heritage or world heritage. We are is an indispensable part of the irreplaceable part of the European world, of the civilized world. But what was very, very important for us and very honorable is that in 2013 this nomination happened. This nomination happened thanks to the efforts not only ours but also our Crimean colleagues, Kyiv colleagues. The nomination was prepared for quite some time, for more than 5 years. It's snapped. It's fixated and reflected in the UN documentation. This nomination also concerns the city of Bakhchisarai, the palace of the Khan. Also, some more interesting, mystical, fantastical museums of Crimea were recognized as a international heritage, and we are talking about one of the German tribes that actually lived in the territory of Crimea, and this is a huge discovery for the archaeology. Very significant. There was another nomination for the UNESCO. This is, for example, a Serdiuk Genoese fortress. It was viewed as a collective nomination, not as opposed to the personal nomination with Bakhchisarai Palace. In the city of Genui, and also, and it was seen or viewed as a huge international project of the fortress that is located in Serdiuk. Other objects in Crimea joined this nomination. However, the architectural monuments in Serdiuk took a key place in this nomination. Also, Crimean observatories were nominated for the UNESCO for the UNESCO architectural monument list. Also, we took care of another project that we conducted along with the Professor Van Droste, who is an international celebrity, so to speak. He took part in this effort for 5 years. He worked in Crimea, both covering the discoveries of the sites in Khersones and Bakhchisarai. The nomination of Khersones worked out. However, the Bakhchisarai one didn't make it before the full-scale invasion. However, it was specifically Bakhchisarai project that that involved a lot of efforts, concerted efforts from different parties. There was a study that took place in Chechot Falais, also near Bakhchisarai. We also conducted studies, not only Crimean architectural study, but also Turkish architectural monuments. And I must say it was such a unique and outstanding work that in 2014 we didn't make it a little bit. It was a little. We were a little bit late, and we were submitting a few projects at the time, also for nomination in the Tavria region. So is its process stopped, or it's on pause? Oh, it's on pause. We will return to it. We will continue this work as soon as we liberate Crimea from the occupiers. We will be there. We will return and start with Bakhchisarai as first thing. Dear colleagues, maybe there are any questions to our guests. No questions. Thank you very much. Ms. Aliye, you wanted to add something? Yes, I also wanted to say that there is an article that I read that when the conflict started, our monuments are entering the status of those being under threat of destruction due to the war. What does this status give us? Well, the international community has to know. It's as a result, the international community is aware of the situation that these objects are in. That's why our duty is to conduct the monitoring of the situation that is unfolding around those monuments. And this is something that our members of our society are doing. And this is basically what we can do right now is collect data, collect information, and to submit requests to the legal institutions. Thank you for your commentary. We do hope that we will be able to save anything that's left after the occupation by our enemy in Crimea. We talked about the monuments that stayed in the territory of Crimea, and we will meet a little bit later and talk about the resistance of the Ukrainians under the occupation. Stay with us.